Stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. Welcome to the September 9th, 2014 meeting of the Rhinebeck Village Board of Trustees. We've already said our Pledge of Allegiance, so we'll move right on to Joel Tyner. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a couple handouts. The first thing I wanted to do is invite everybody. I'm doing a forum across the way at Town Hall here in Rhinebeck on Tuesday, September 30th at 5:30 p.m. on the whole issue of the oil trains and the oil barges. Last night, one of the things I sent around last night, I got 7 of us from my caucus and Marge Horton, from the other caucus, 8 of us out of 25 at least, we signed a letter to the DEC based on Sunday's Poughkeepsie Journal editorial. How ridiculous it is that there's been an exponential, a dramatic increase in these oil trains and oil barges coming through our communities. And the Department of Environmental Conservation conducted an oil spill drill in November of last year in New Windsor, and they don't want to tell anybody what the results of that drill were. I have a feeling everybody probably knows about this because this was the whole focus of Sunday's Poughkeepsie Journal editorial. I wish I could report that all 25 of us signed on to this letter last night, but at least I got a little bit of Republican support, 1 Republican and 7 of us Democrats. So it'd be great if, I don't know if you guys wanted to take a position. Rockland County, Albany County, Orange County, Westchester County, Ulster County, a lot of different county legislatures have passed resolutions. I've gotten a couple letters signed in the past, earlier this year on this, and I hope to have an expert or 2 in the room. Again, so that's Tuesday, September 30th, 5:30 p.m., Rhinebeck Town Hall, forum on the oil trains, and also looking at alternatives. Good news. Got the resolution passed last June for a solarized Duchess program. The County Planning Commissioner, to his credit, just recently released a memo saying, we're going to try to do this. And they're exploring and they're looking for funding. It wouldn't cost hardly anything to get the program up off the ground, but I'm encouraged by that. So we're going to be talking about that, because if you go to thesolutionsproject.org, this is what a lot of people are rallying in New York City. If you go to peoplesclimatemarch.org on the 21st of September, we don't need fracking, we don't need coal, we don't need oil, we don't need these oil trains and barges coming up and down close to Rhinebeck. So that's...
Joe, on that subject, I have a particular sensitivity to this here because we here in Rhinebeck take the water out of the Hudson River.
Exactly.
And our pipes are about 1,500 feet or so into the river. Yep,
and Rhinebeck's not the only community. So I would love it if you wanted to sit on that panel. I believe you may know somebody who's quite high up at Scenic Hudson, somebody quite close to you, Ms. Sauer, and I'm going to try to get somebody from Riverkeeper or Scenic Hudson there. That's Tuesday, September 30th, 5:30 p.m., right at Rhinebeck Town Hall. Also, I wanted to invite you, I can't remember if I talked about this last month, but there's a guy named Dr. David Carpenter, pertinent to the river. You may have heard him on WAMC Northeast Public Radio for the last 20 or 30 years. He's been talking forever about the PCBs in the Hudson. Well, I still can't quite believe this. He called into my radio show last Saturday morning on WHVW 950 AM. Dr. David Carpenter, he's actually coming to Clinton Town Hall for a forum I'm hosting. I advise you, I'm urging you to all please come. He doesn't speak often around here. That's going to be 1 week from Wednesday. It's Wednesday, September 17th, 5:30, Clinton Town Hall. This guy is amazing. He's the director of the Institute for Health and the Environment at SUNY Albany. 2 years ago, he was the lead author of the Bioinitiative report. If you go to bioinitiative.org, there's been a lot of lies and spin coming from utilities and development corporations about the utility, the power lines and the power towers. This guy he's actually in the movie, Take Back Your Power, the award-winning documentary that came out last year. We'll be screening that film, thanks to Fred Nagel, that evening. So that's Wednesday, September 17th, 5:30, Clinton Town Hall, and Dr. David Carpenter is going to be speaking. There are places in the world like Switzerland, and I think it was Austria or Australia. There are places that take electromagnetic frequency radiation seriously, from cell phones, from so-called smart meters, Central Hudson, ERTs, encoding receiving transmitters, which about half of us here in the Hudson Valley region already have on our homes. There are places on the planet that take EMF radiation seriously. We do not here, unfortunately, in this country. So I urge you to please come to that. Also, I've been saying for a lot of years that the Dutchess County Office for the Aging Senior Friendship Center should really be open 5 days a week. I actually kind of single-handedly convinced the county legislature to make that happen, at least for 1 year. Unsuccessful over the last few years. The county executive, to his credit, is going to be here in Rhinebeck Wednesday the 17th, the same day, 1 week from this Wednesday, at 11 o'clock in the morning at Good Shepherd Church on Mulberry Street. I'm asking for Republicans, Democrats, no matter what your party affiliation, please come that day and let's see if we can work together to get the Rhinebeck Senior Friendship Center open 5 days a week. For a long time, it was open 5 days a week. I would like to see that happen again. That's Wednesday, 17th, 11 o'clock in the morning, Good Shepherd Church. Mr. Molinaro is going to be there. I'll be there. Just wanted to point that out. Also, for 5 years, I've been pushing for property tax installments, that type of an option. However, because Sullivan County did it back in '09. However, I understand the Dutchess County Association of Supervisors and Mayors isn't particularly pleased with this particular proposal, so I'm not endorsing it. You may have read about it in the media. And I've been, trying to lead the fight for years against the county stealing money from the municipalities with the Board of Elections chargebacks, stealing, 4 or 5, I don't know how many millions it is now every year in the county sales tax revenue sharing. So I know that, no way in heck are you guys going to support a property tax installment option when the county's taking so much money. So I just wanted to keep you up to date on that. That was the only thing I was going to say. Just our next Repair Cafe is coming up Saturday, October 11th, noon to 4 p.m. across the way at the Rhinebeck Town Hall. Kathleen Gallagher-Evers has been working with me on this. Great piece in About Town. It's a pre-Halloween Repair Cafe. If you go to repaircafe.org, we're looking for people to work with us to help mend and sew and create new Halloween costumes. So please call me 876-2488. My cell phone is 453-2105. Next, Rhinebeck Repair Cafe with a Halloween theme, and you can bring your computers and bikes and lamps and other stuff to be fixed. That's going to be Saturday, October 11th, noon to 4, Rhinebeck Town Hall. And a shout out to Mr. Gary Kenton, who also made sure that the Conservation Advisory Board got on board originally. So thank you, and thank you for your patience.
Thanks, Joel.
Yep.
Next item on our agenda is the keeping of hens. Basically, suggestion or request was brought to us by Victoria Polidoro a couple months back. The board had some questions regarding the proposal. She brought back some answers, which we presented. I don't know if it was last month or before. So now we're just going to open up the microphone to comments from the public to kind of get a pulse of where everyone's at before we move forward with anything else. So at this point, if anyone would like to speak in regards to keeping of hens, hurry up or we'll move on. Come on. Okay.
Hi, Victoria Polidoro. Thanks for holding this comment session tonight. Obviously, I'm in support of it, and I just wanted to hand out. I have a petition signed by a bunch of people in my neighborhood, and I have 4 emails in support. I'm just going to hand them in to you.
Thank you. Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm Donna Warner, and I live on Corner Beach in Livingston. I grew up on a, I grew up on a dairy farm in Hyde Park. My grandparents raised cattle, but also chickens, in order to sell the eggs to make a living. So I'm very familiar with what it's like to be around a lot of chickens, both as pets and in the barnyard. And I also lived in an urban area where that actually passed ordinances to allow hens, and visited some of the urban chicken coops. And I think the more experience I've had with this, so actually I have no particular interest in this subject except by reading the article in the newspaper and doing a little research. And I kind of feel very concerned that this is a complicated issue, that there are a lot of issues that should be surfaced, that it's an educational process, and that I think there are a host of issues that have to do with what is an appropriate lot size, what kind of setbacks would need to be put in place. And I looked at all the ordinances, there's a list of them across the country in every state and community, from livestock ordinances to urban. And so setbacks typically are 30, 40 feet. You have to be distant not only from your house, but your neighbor's house, your kids' swing sets in the back, and all of that. And I think then you have a host of issues that many people are familiar with around noise. I read both sides. I did all the research on the internet about they don't make noise, and then I looked on backyardchickens.com, and you can find the dialogue amongst those who are actually doing the backyard hen raising, who are having conversations about the noise, the smell, the odors, and all of these other issues. So I think that there is a huge educational process for anyone who wants to do this, or who might want to do it, and for the people who live around them. I could go on because unfortunately I did my homework, but I do want to put in a voice for making a statement that in the interests of the chickens, the chicken hen owners, the neighbors, and town officials, that perhaps Rhinebeck Village is not the place for hens. Thank you.
Thank you. Got one. Go ahead over there on the edge. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Lisa Camp. I'm on the CAB with Gary Kenton, and he asked me to come and give some support for the fact that I've been raising chickens for about 4 years. We have 7 hens. A good flock size for the village would be maybe 3 to 5 hens. It's no big deal. They don't make a big mess. They don't make a lot of noise. It's really great to go out in the coop and pick your own egg for breakfast. It's great for the kids. It's good for when they're out free ranging to eat the bugs. Their poop makes great compost, so you can just add it to your compost pile, or if the village picks it up, I guess it could be bagged in like a leaf bag to be picked up for. I think that people are really concerned about the noise. I think that we have crows and hawks around us. I live in the town of Rhinebeck, and they make far more noise than my chickens do. And people, the noise probably, they're concerned about a rooster. But you can get eggs without a rooster, so nobody needs to have a rooster. Do you have any questions for me? I mean,
How many acres do you have?
Well, we have 25 acres. However, that's completely irrelevant for what people are talking about with chickens, because I came from a town, Davis, California, which is 75,000 people, and many, many, many residents have chickens, and they even have something called the Tour de Cluck, where people bike or walk around to all the different chicken coops. They open up, it's like a house tour, and they open it up for everyone to see. And, you know, these people have 5, 7, maybe 8 chickens, and that gives you enough to have a dozen eggs for your family. It's also really good for kids to learn about where eggs come from. So
I didn't catch where you.
I live on Accord Hook Road in the town of Rhinebeck.
Thank you.
Yep.
You're next, Jack.
Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity to speak. My name is Rosemary Bialek, and I live in the village on Trinity Place, near the high school. And I would urge the board not to allow the raising of chickens in the village unless on a very large piece of property. We once lived close to someone who was raising chickens, and it was not a pleasant experience. Depending on the way the wind was blowing, there was a definite and unpleasant odor wafting into our yard, especially unwelcome if we happened to be eating outside at the time. Even more annoying, we found, was the constant clucking of the birds, not conducive to the quiet enjoyment of your property. I think we can all understand a mother's desire to feed her family healthy food. However, the board should consider the size of village lots and the effect such a law will have on neighboring yards. Raising backyard chickens can attract predators that would then affect neighboring yards, gardens, and pets. I understand that there would be requirements for housing the chickens and their food supply, but who would be responsible for policing the requirements. Would this task be added to the duties of the building inspector? Rhinebeck is a very unique village. Please help maintain its peace and serenity. Thank you.
Thank you. Jack?
Thank you. My name is John Verricchio. I live at 47 Violet Place in the village. I agree that getting food that's healthy and raised in a proper way for your family is a good thing to do. I don't buy eggs at a supermarket. I get eggs from Knollcrest Farms that are delivered to Wonderland Florist. They've been in business. I know the second family there now for 50 years. They've been delivering eggs to the village. They used to deliver them around to every house. They're raised in a proper manner as far as I can tell. We've always been healthy. So there are ways when you live in a village atmosphere in a city to get foods that are nutritious and the animals are raised properly. But the proposal that's before you is very sketchy right now from the information that's available. You're talking about raising hens. Well, they're not allowed at the present time. I think you're talking about chickens, full-grown chickens. Well, the present code, the Rhinebeck Code, zoning code, prohibits the raising of chickens on any non-farm parcel. A farm parcel is 10 acres or more. So no chickens, ducks, geese, or other fowl are allowed on any parcel less than 10 acres. But it's curious. If you have 2 acres or more, you can raise a horse. You can raise beef cattle, you can raise a cow, a hog, sheep, a goat, or any other four-legged animal on 2 acres or more. But chickens or other fowl are prohibited on less than 10 acres. So in the past, and for those that thought this was the will of the community at the time the zoning code was written, it was deemed that chickens and fowl were a problem, could cause a problem. So you have to take that into consideration. In the town of Rhinebeck, chickens are not allowed on a quarter acre. On a non-farm lot, from when I dealt with the zoning code over there, I'm not that familiar with the new code because I left the board just before the new code was adopted, and I'm not familiar with all of the amendments. But on a non-farm parcel, chickens were not allowed. And in the town, most of the parcels are an acre or more. There are 5-acre lots, and they're bordered by 20-acre lots or farms. And still, they're restricted, very restricted. So here, what study is going to be done, or what has been done, to come up with a proposal for having chickens, 5 chickens, on a quarter-acre lot, when now they're not allowed on a lot 40 acres, up to 40 acres larger than what's proposed. Now, there was a nice article in the paper about the raising of chickens, but it was a parcel that's in the town, 20 acres, and they have a dozen chickens. Well, they have 11 chickens according to the article, 1 rooster. But it's curious in there, they talk about raising rescue hens. So someplace where they're raising chickens and probably in a restricted area, they're not being cared for properly. So, yeah, I think you're going to have to do a full impact study, environmental impact study, on what the impact would be on the town, on the village of Rhinebeck, excuse me, on a proposal like this, on a quarter-acre lot, to have 5 hens, which means that that's 20 per acre. Now, you'd have to decide, there's a number of parcels that are quarter acre or larger. I live on a 100 by 100 lot. That's just slightly under a quarter acre, because an acre or quarter acre is 10,890 feet, and I have 10,000 square feet. I look at my yard, the front yard, side yard, driveway, garage, house, patio. Where's the room for chickens? winter and summer. How is the waste going to be disposed of properly in all yards, depending on what their coverage is and all? So you have a lot of homework to do, and it's going to be expensive to do it properly to make it legal. So there's many considerations here. What's allowed now is really a restriction against chickens. Because when you think about it, for a zoning code to hold up, there has to be relief for property owners that have actual hardships. For the zoning Board of Appeals to give a variance, an area variance for the raising of chickens, you're going to have somewhere near 10 acres for them to legally give a variance. So that's why it seems to be overly restrictive or a lot of overkill. But it's done for a purpose, because chickens are a problem on small lots. In many cases. In some cases, it might not be. People will care for them properly, but there are those that won't. Then you can have problems, and there are questions to be answered. One is enforcement, and that was brought up before. Will you have, the Board of Health is not going to come around. They're very well burdened. So enforcement is also going to be an expense, which I don't know if you want to take on or not, but that's up to the community. There's also the question of predators. If there are many parcels that have chickens, the accompanying odor and all is going to draw predators into the village that you don't necessarily have now or are not a problem. They're probably around because they're everywhere. The fox, the coyote, they like chickens, they like eggs. And in the wintertime, they're hungry. We didn't used to have a problem with deer, but now there's a problem with deer in the village. I have them in my yard. I've lost my garden till now. I'm not going to plant a garden anymore. Deer are not a problem as far as being predators, but they are a problem. But if you start bringing coyote and fox into the village and other rodents, skunks, raccoons, the rest, that become persistent because there's an attraction, how are you going to get rid of them? How's the average homeowner going to get rid of them? You can't shoot them like you can out on a 20-acre parcel in the town. You can't trap them. So you're going to invite problems for a small issue. And this is a small issue, but it can become a big issue if it gets out of hand. So the thing would be, how are you going to control it if it gets out of hand? So I think you need a large study, and you need a lot of thought. The proposal, I think, is well thought and is well intentioned. But there's a reason why most areas like an urban area or a village do not allow the keeping of chickens, because there is case law on it, I think. Thank you very much.
Thanks, John. Barbara?
Good evening. Good evening, gentlemen and lady. Barbara Kraft from Crossmore Road. I once upon a time raised chickens when I lived in Texas as a young girl. We had 2 acres, and they are a lot of work. I'm pro trying this, and I think it can be structured in such a manner that you have a trial basis, that you change the code, and that's what we're talking about, changing the code, limiting the size of the property, if not 1/4 of an acre to 1/3 of an acre, limiting the number of chickens, hens, no roosters, sorry guys, and having it controlled. People cannot have chickens without a coop that's fully enclosed. The building inspector would have to inspect this coop to see that it meets certain standards. The limit on the size, I don't know how many properties there are in the village that are the 1/4 or 1/3 of an acre, whatever is determined, and limiting the number of hens to that property. Not everyone is going to do this. You could even, perhaps with more study, have a course, a certification course, so that people know what's involved in keeping chickens. And it is a lot of work. I can remember having them in our bathroom during the ice storms in Texas because they don't like the cold. So what can be done with the waste? We have a village garden. That's wonderful manure. I go out to Knoll Crest and get the chicken poop to put in my gardens. So there's a use for this. We're trying to encourage children, we're trying to encourage people to eat healthy, to bring our food sources closer to home. Life is about change. Try it for 2 years. Set up a stringent program, give it a 2-year trial. See how many people actually go through it, do it, and limit the number perhaps for the first 2 years to 20 people. So it can be done with the proper controls, and that's what I'm here to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Barbara.
Hi, my name's Melissa Cohen, and I'm coming into your meeting, even though I'm in Rhinecliff. I'm not in the village, but I'm here because we have a lot of chickens in Rhinecliff, and I'm concerned that if this passes, then the next step will be that it'll pass in Rhinecliff. And I just want to say that I absolutely love free-range eggs. And I love chickens, and I'm an animal lover, so I just want to get that clear. Recently, my next-door neighbors tried to they had the opportunity to adopt some rescue chickens. And I have a dog, and I have an invisible fence, and lo and behold, she's a chicken killer. And, you know, I love my dog, and I like my neighbors. And what we have, you know, in a close proximity to each other is that we all have to get along. And I think that you know, right now dogs and cats are allowed in the village and also in the hamlet. And I think there's going to be a lot of conflict because people that don't even know they have a chicken killing dog are going to find out whether they do or not, because that's like, you know, dessert. That's birthday cake to them. And I spent $100 to have a special animal trainer come to see if there was some way that I could get my dog untrained to love eating chickens. And you know, it became, you know, really a point of contention, unfortunately. And so I think if we already have dogs and cats, then it's going to really be a challenge. You know, it's different if we're talking about, you know, 1.5 acres, 2 acres, 5 acres. I think that's completely appropriate, and you know, I welcome it. And I think, you know, maybe there's another solution where maybe as part of the community garden, maybe there's some way of allocating a certain area where people could have chickens. But for everybody in such close proximity, I think we're going to really see a lot of problems like I did.
Thank you. Anybody else want to speak on chickens? We're not going to go back and forth, but if you'd like to make another comment.
I just want to make a comment.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if any kind of, you know, how many, what is the actual level of interest in doing this in the village? I mean, how many people are actually involved? Is there,
well, that's why we're here tonight.
Survey, and so
Yeah.
I think that's one consideration given the amount of work and costs as this gentleman has described. And the only other comment is, if you look at the literature on this now, you'll see the backside of the trend towards urban chicken farming or whatever, raising chickens, and that's where you begin to see the downside of abandoned coops, abandoned chickens, and you know, a lot of issues. I just think you have to look at the whole trend.
Sure. And we've accepted literature in support of the keeping of hens. If you would like to, you know, present some literature on the other side, we'd be more than willing to.
I would be happy to do that if I could have time to print it out.
Oh, sure. You can just bring it by any time and drop it off with Pat, and she'll have it distributed to us.
And also the ordinances from all the cities and towns across the country.
Sure. Thank you. So I guess that'll close our comment period on the keeping of hens. Thank you all for coming out and sharing your opinions with us. We're going to move on to our electricity usage report from Heinz.
Well, in this past month, the month of August, we generated 3,3150 kilowatt hours and consumed about 4136 kilowatt hours. That saved us about $525. I have one other small thing about electricity. I had a meeting yesterday with Viridian. Viridian came to me and made a proposal for a 3-year contract of at a cost of about 7.99 cents a kilowatt hour. I thought this was probably not too good of a deal at this point, even so I didn't know. So I did two things. Number one, I went to the Central Hudson website and did a moving average of the last 3 years of what they charged. And I came away with the fact that the things at Central Hudson, their cost of electricity, now this is just the electricity, this is not the line work and so on, line charges, went from 2012 at 6.454 cents a kilowatt hour to 2013 at 6.772 cents a kilowatt hour to this year. And this year, I mean between August of 14 and September of 13 of 8.2 cents a kilowatt hour. So it's been creeping up there. And what the Viridian was proposing was just under that 8 cents a kilowatt hour, 7.9 cents a kilowatt hours. Now I had last time I reported to you that I also talked to a company called Bitdur Energy, and these people want to go out and get quotes for from different energy companies and see what they can come up with. And I had a conversation with them today, and they will get us sometime in the next 3-4 weeks some idea of what other companies can provide us with kilowatt hours. And the time frame that we were talking about was 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 24 months, and 36 months fixed contracts, and see how that works out. As I said, Viridian came up to me with a 3-year contract of 7.99 cents a kilowatt hour. So I want to see what these people in Rochester come up with and so on. What I told them is that I don't want to go out and change every month a supplier. I said I want to have a long-term contract so we can figure out what it is that when we do our next budget, what we can expect in terms of electricity is concerned. So that's going to come down the road. I'll report to you probably by mail at some point when I get the idea, because Viridian wanted us to sign a contract before the end of the month, and I said, well, I don't think I'm ready at this point, but I'll keep you apprised of what is going on there, okay?
Very good. Heinz, do we have a contract with them now?
We have a contract with Viridian, and they somehow did not, and that's the reason for some of the rebates that we got, the last about $12,000 rebates in the last 6 months. We have, from what I found out yesterday, is we have a contract with them. We have 4 fixed contracts that run out in December 27th at the cost of 7.89 cents a kilowatt hour. We have 2 of them that run out this month at 0.549 cents a kilowatt hour. And then I just sent them 6 contracts about 3 weeks ago at 0.99 cents a kilowatt hour. And but they will be negated, if we decide to go with them for a 3-year period. Okay, we can cancel these contracts. It costs us $50 to cancel them, which is really not a big deal. Okay. One other thing that Viridian, I should tell you, guarantee is that if Central Hudson, for any chance, has a higher rate than they have, they will reimburse us at 110%. In other words, they give us for that particular month, for that particular account, they're going to give us a rebate. But this is a bookkeeping thing, and I went through when I did the vouchers today. I went through the electrical bills, and it's like we have 12 accounts that we run with Viridian. That's a job, to keep up with this every month.
Yeah.
So that's it. I think.
So you're very next on the list with for the water department.
Yeah, the water department. We had actually only 3 people working last month. The rest of them were on vacation on various days. So because we cover almost 12. We cover almost 12 shifts in 12 8-hour shifts in a week with 3 people. It means that most of the time we had only one person there watching the pumps and so on. So as a result of it, we did not get a lot of the other distribution work that I'd liked done. We did not do any hydrants this month. We will do 2 of them in next week. We only exchanged 6 meters. We're up now to 88 meters, and I wanted to do about 120, 150 a year or more if I can. What I had asked our guys to do is I want to spend, because a lot of people are there only on Saturdays, I said I want to spend 4 hours on Saturdays overtime to install a bunch of meters every week, and that's actually kind of cost effective for us. If we go out, we got about 500 meters to install yet. At 1,600 accounts, probably something like that, right? And we did about close to 1,000 or so, and a lot of them are people that are only here on weekends. So we're going to catch up to. I want to get that done in about 2 years or so, 2 or 3 years. Meters are also expensive. They're like $200 a piece. That's the thing. We treated water. We treated about 15,565 gallons of water this month. We trained settling tanks and flock tanks, both of them, and did some work on private residences where we had issues with water lines, and we fixed them. Otherwise, no other problems, no other report this month.
Okay. Gary, wastewater?
The wastewater report for August, 3.60 million gallons of wastewater treated, 43,477 gallons of sludge processed, and 5,466 pounds of sludge processed for August. Also, the wastewater department got their annual compliance inspection from the state DEC, and I gather that our facility passed with flying colors. Anthony was proud of the way it came through. So I know of no issues that were raised in that inspection. And then the last item is that we put out a bid for sludge hauling. Pat sent it out to 14 different companies, and we have received 2 bids, which I'm going to unseal now. on these things. All right. I'm getting this like
security.
Nexting dolls. Okay. All right. First bid is from the Royal Karting Service, and the amount of the bid is well, actually, it seems to be $5,500. Just looking to make sure that's correct. And the other is from Veolia Water. And I see a per ton price. I don't see a total, so let's...
That's what it's going to be. It'll be the per ton. That, I think, is the bond.
All right, I say, okay, the Royal bid is $159.70 per ton, and the Veolia is $130.10 per ton.
Okay.
One came with a check. I don't know if that is there to...
We'll have the bids reviewed, but if you want to make a motion to go with one pending review.
I'm going to look through it quickly. I don't know that make sure we're dealing with apples and apples here.
Do you want to review it? We've opened them. Do you want to review it?
We can make a motion to accept the lowest bid pending the review and approval that meets all the specifications of the RFP.
Sounds good. I'll second that motion.
Okay, any discussion on that?
What was the check for?
It's probably the
bid
bond.
bond.
The bid bond. Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Fire, Scott?
The Rhinebeck Fire Department monthly call volume breakdown for the month of August. The fire department responded to 22 emergency medical service calls in the town and 24 in the village, for a total of 46 for the month of August. They responded to 20 fire calls in the town, 8 in the village, for a total of 28. And motor vehicle accidents, there were 6 calls in the town and 2 in the village. And so the aggregate response for the year has been 186 emergency medical calls to the town, 201 to the village, for a total of 387. Fire calls, there's been a total of 127 to the town, 85 to the village, for a total of 212. And motor vehicle accidents, there have been 46 calls in the town, 10 in the village, for a total of 53. And altogether, to the end of August, there's been 356 calls to the town, 296 calls to the village, for a total of 652 calls answered this year.
All right. On the contract update, it's been executed by the village and the town, so we are now in a 5-year contract to provide fire protection to the town protective district, the same region that the village fire department has covered for years. So that negotiation is now behind us.
Good job.
Street department.
Okay. The drainage ditch that runs under Huntington Road needs to be dredged. Mike reports that the ground is very wet down there, and he feels that a track machine would work the best with a longer reach and would do less lawn damage in the area. The brush pickup was completed 8/13, and the piles are already back on the street. I don't know if we ever want to talk about trying to get a 2-week schedule going here. We've tried that in the past. The idea would be that people would not put out their brush on a constant basis, but how do you feel about it? How's the board feel about trying to do something like this?
I feel very strongly about it. Yeah. I mean, I think I proposed it a couple of meetings ago, but I think it's a way to make their efforts at picking up brush more efficient, and it's a way to keep the village cleaner for a longer period of time. So there's only a certain amount of time that the brush is in the streets.
Yeah, and along the same lines, you have many times where brush and I think garbage ends up in the drainage system.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
You know, and I think that would mitigate that.
And we've talked about there being traffic problems when there's brush in the
Yeah.
and leaves in the street and narrows the streets, and it becomes an issue, and we have traffic or we have events in the village. So it's something that I think we should really start thinking about.
Okay, but we should start thinking about how to
With leaves coming
how
out.
to do this.
Right.
Because we've made notices before in the past, here on Panda, in the papers, and the brush keeps getting put on the street.
Maybe it has to have teeth.
Well, let's come up with a proposal.
Right.
Bring us a proposal of what the schedule should be, and we will go from there.
One of the problems will be leaves. I mean, they're falling.
Well, the
wherever they
leaves
wanna
is a
fall.
different story. I'm
It's a
talking about the
different
brush all year round. Yeah.
John?
Just ask a question and make a comment.
Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is John Verricchio again, still is. I just asked for your,
51 Violet Place, is it?
no, 47.
Oh, okay, sorry.
You live down the other end. When you talk about the brush removal and doing these services for the community, consider that there's, like myself, there's a lot of senior citizens in the village of Rhinebeck that use hired hands and lawn services to clean their yards and do the work that's necessary to keep the yards and keep the village looking good. And they don't have control all the time over when brush will be put out, because it's when the people come and do the work. So I know in my case, a lot of people put their brush out on a weekend, and then the street department would come on a Monday and clean up, and that was great. But a lot of times I did have a lawn service for a while when I was working, and they would come on a Monday or on a Tuesday, and they would put stuff out, and then it was out there after the fact, and then, of course, the street department would say, well, why did they put it out now when we just picked up yesterday? So some of the residents in the village, especially the senior citizens, don't have complete control over the yard work because they can't do it anymore. So think about that when you make your determination, do it fair, and think about, and the thing about, there was a time when if you had a bucket load out in the front, it was fine, but if you had more than a bucket load, you got charged $10. Well, at times when a whole hedge had to be trimmed and somebody hired that, I noticed, and some of my friends, there'd be a bigger pile, and I know a few got billed. So that was a good idea, but it maybe hurt the wrong people. So be careful how you make things good, because sometimes you don't make it good for everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Jeffrey, have any advice for us on this one? I don't mean to put you on the spot, but
No, I would just sort of echo off what he said. I mean, it's hard for someone in my position to, I mean, I try not to block the street when I put out brush. I know not all guys seem to particularly care about that, but yeah, like he said, just be mindful of the fact that people in my position can't always control when it gets put out. I mean, I try to talk to Mike and work out myself personally to try to make things flow with me, but in terms of other contractors, and yeah. Thanks.
Thanks, Joe. Anything else, Howard?
No.
You done?
I know we, no, I did.
Oh.
I have more. We're done talking about brush. The walk bridge on Route 9 down by the Legion Park was welded, wire brushed, primed, and painted dark green. I don't know if everybody here realizes that's a pretty historic bridge. It was actually put there, I believe, by the Astors, right?
It's called the Astor Bridge.
It's called the Astor Bridge, that wired, the iron part there. So it's been there for about 100 years. And I'd like to thank the Highway Department for fixing that up. Okay, the firehouse septic risers out here in the parking lot have been dug out and replaced, and they milled around the repair sites, and they blacktopped the area. Also, old posts were removed from the LP tank, which is back here in the firehouse. and new posts have been installed with a new fence to hide the tanks. Also, concrete posts have been installed around this new generator out here, and also around the big belly in the parking lot, which is over here. The village had a demo grapple truck. We're speaking of picking up brush. We've also been talking about maybe purchasing a grapple truck in the future, which would pick up the brush with one person picking, it's like a clamshell, picks it up and puts it in the back of the truck, so then it would be one-person operation. So there was a demo here by a company, and Mike reports that it worked well for some of the tight areas, and the truck could also be used for cleaning ditches. A vacuum truck was rented a few weeks ago to clean the storm drain lines, and the line that runs from West Chestnut to Village Green. A dozen bricks were removed, and broken drain tiles were also removed from this spot. Mike reports that there might be a problem here and he might need some outside help in the future to get this fixed.
You mean we have collapsing tile drains, right?
Well,
Is
yeah,
that
it's like a box culvert.
Yeah.
Some laid stone, I think.
Yeah. They've been there also probably for 100 years, so here and there they kind of collapse. And as we talked, you and I, Heinz, about water lines and storm drain lines and
yes,
all
we
these.
should get a report on the water lines at least by the 15th of September from our village engineer to give us some kind of a conceptual plan on how to go about this thing. Once we have this, we probably can fold in drainages in there as well. But the main driver here is to replace the water lines. But once you do that, and open up the street.
Yeah, we want to open up the street once and try to get as much done as we can. Mike reports that he needs to hire 2 or 3 part-timers for the leaf season, and they have been doing blacktop repairs on the north side. That's it for the highway department.
But I also want to say that I saw some nice work done on Knollwood, where the Navarro's live. There were big holes in the ground with metal plates lying over them, and they had 2 little kids right in that same house, and they finally closed it up and did a nice job there.
Thank you.
What's Colton's last name?
Do you want to address the big bellies, Howie?
Oh yeah, the big bellies. These are our solar compacting trash bins that we have, and we have 3 on the way. I got an email today. It says they're being shipped.
They're being delivered tomorrow.
Oh, okay. So they're being delivered tomorrow, and we have identified 3 spots in the village where we're going to put these. One is in front of the CVS by the new crosswalk. It's going to be on the sidewalk where there's a no parking zone, so hopefully nobody will back into them. We plan on putting another one over by the smoke shop on the Route 9 side. And the third one we're talking about down on Garden Street, but I don't know if we've finalized the spot yet.
West Market Street, I thought.
West Market?
Yes. Near Garden.
Yeah.
And you're correct, we did not finalize the spot.
Okay.
Yes. And in that, we will be transitioning from the pole-mounted baskets and directing people to the big bellies. We're working on signage for the parks, the park at Crystal Lake, Legion Park already, the trash receptacle. There hasn't been one there in years, and we're going to transition the other 2 parks, the Lions Club Mini Park and the Rockefeller Lane Park at Crystal Lake. Okay?
Before we move on, if we were to get the grapple truck, would that sort of solve the other issue about needing to have a different schedule for brush pickup? Would they be able to pick up on a more efficient, regular basis, so we would not need to change, the habits that people have developed?
Perhaps.
Perhaps, okay.
That would be my proposal.
Yeah.
A rolling schedule to keep it clean.
Right, but, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, the problem now is we need
Right.
two backhoes and 4 dump trucks and 6 guys.
6 guys, right. Yeah,
So
no.
they're doing a lot of work, so.
But you still need more than one person to do that, because you have, when you pick up the leaves and so on, there's a lot of residuals on the ground, and they
Right.
got to be swept up and put up.
Tidied up.
And then they
But it would be
Well-
2 guys instead of 6 guys.
Yeah, well, we saw a demonstration in Troy, and the guy's very efficient. Once you get to learn how to use this thing, he was all by himself, picks this up.
Right.
But
Well-
when the grapple truck is loaded in full, it's no longer a grapple truck. It becomes a dump truck and it's hauling.
Right.
So what we currently have now is we have multiple trucks, so there's always one in transit and there's always one that's being filled. So it's a kind of a cycle of things that seem to work. I don't know if we'll be eliminating, 3 dump trucks and 2 backhoes with the proposal of the grapple truck. Because you take the grapple truck offline when you're going to empty it.
Right.
I'm just saying, something to consider.
Well, then you wouldn't need a grapple truck with a dump bed if you just want to get a grapple truck.
Just saying.
Because you have a full grapple truck.
You have a grapple truck that you're grappling, you're grabbing the debris and you're loading it into the truck and then you're driving that grapple truck. So maybe it's another piece of equipment. I don't know if we've considered something that's just a grappler that picks up the debris and loads the trucks that we already own. And maybe that piece of equipment is less money than a full grapple truck.
I think it's about the same, but we can look at that. That's going to be in Howie's proposal.
Looking forward to receiving it.
Okay.
Tree Commission.
Okay, everybody got the tree commission report, right?
Yes.
Okay, I'll highlight a few things here. With deep regret, I announce that Cecily Frazier has resigned. After many years of working as the chairwoman of the Tree Commission and a founding member, Cecily tendered her resignation from the group. I would like to thank, and everybody would like to thank, Cecily for her many years of service to the community and recognize her efforts and hard work. She'll be hard to replace. But we do have a new member of the Tree Commission, James Marshall. He lives right across the street here. And we're also looking for one other member of the Tree Commission. The fall planting is Saturday, November 8th, and we do look for volunteers for that. The Tree Commission, the shared cost of tree maintenance, the Tree Commission will be developing a proposal for a tree maintenance plan, which we hope will address some gray areas and concerns surrounding the changes and challenges involved with the handling of tree removal and pruning requests under the new 50-50 funding policy. And here, we have some approved tree removals and pruning. I'm going to read them all. Make a motion to accept these and read them.
Well, we all have the locations.
Right.
Do you want to include the last one? Because that's pending a review of the right-of-way.
Right.
We should hold that one until next.
Right.
Okay.
So I make a motion that we approve the approvals, the removals and pruning of the mentioned trees here, except the last one on the bottom.
Second.
Any discussion on that?
Yeah, so what is the cost now on this, doing this?
We don't know. We have to get it.
These were all pre-existing applications, I believe.
Right.
It depends on the tree. Cost varies.
I mean, we can put it out to bid like we usually do, or get 3
Well,
estimates.
is it a 50-50?
No, this
No, this
is
is
pre-existing the change.
Pre-existing.
Yeah.
So is there a existing list that these are added to, or this is the list?
This is the end of the list.
This is the end
at
of
the
the list.
100%.
This is the end, so once these are done, then, okay.
And the last one will
It's pending.
stay on the list, but we're going to determine the right-of-way. All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I want to make a comment, Howie. I'd like to read this tree commission report. It is well organized and nicely written.
Yes, I'd like to thank Brian Del Pizzo for doing this. And he was coached by Cecily Frazier, but he's very organized.
Yeah, it's well done.
I just wanted to mention another thing that's beyond the right-of-way. I spoke to Rich about this before. The tree commission, we plant trees in the right-of-way. Sometimes they're not good areas to plant a tree between the road and the sidewalk. So I guess it's a state law that you have to plant in the right-of-way.
Private property, I'll have to look at it.
Okay.
They're saying other municipalities have time.
I know you didn't have time to research this, but the tree commission would look to plant beyond the right-of-way. That's better for the trees, it's better for the sidewalks, better to keep away from power lines. And they think that there's a few communities out there that are trying to get this law amended, but we don't have any evidence of that yet. So we'll be looking into this.
Just to make it clear, there'd never be a case where a tree would be planted without the permission of the property owner.
Right.
Okay.
We always ask the property owners, but
Right. Just
we're trying to plant trees where they're more effective, where they're
Right.
not wrecking the sidewalks.
Right.
And they're not planted under power lines where they have to be trimmed.
Okay.
Any comments?
Yeah, I do have a comment. I was wondering, so there's a list of trees that are going to be removed, and apparently they get removed to a point just above grade or below grade. Do we just cut them off? Do we grind the stumps? Do we remove the stumps? And how do we allow for the planting of trees to replace those if the stumps are
Well, we have a
still in
stump
place?
grinder.
Okay.
So the village highway department does that. And then in the future, the tree commission goes around different quadrants and they kind of look and see where there's some bare areas maybe where the trees have been cut down. And they approach the homeowner to see if they would like a new tree.
It's not likely that they're going back in the same spot.
We don't, when we cut down a tree, we don't automatically go back to that same spot and put a new tree there.
And so there's probably no opportunity to replace a tree because the stumps are really still exist below grade.
Right, but most,
Maybe you'll move.
To the right or to the left.
yeah, but then most of the stumps, the old trees were in bad areas that wrecked the sidewalk. So there might be a better spot on the other side of the sidewalk. to
That's
plant
beyond the
them.
right of way.
Well, that's within the right of way. What, a lot of times, the good spots are out of the right of way, so we don't plant there.
But we may be able to have an agreement with some kind of formal agreement to, but Rich will tell us if we can make that work.
But most of the trees now that are recommended to be replanted are street trees, and that have non-invasive roots that usually work and grow within those not so great areas, which are our right-of-ways, usually
Right.
between the curb and the sidewalk.
Right.
Correct.
Okay.
You guys have any comments on planning and zoning?
No, we can read you the report if you'd like.
I don't think we need to list every permit that was issued unless you so choose.
No thanks.
Any highlights?
We do need to make a motion. Last time, we appointed 2 new alternates to the zoning board, but we want to make a motion to make Colton Johnson a permanent member. He was an alternate. Now we need to make him a permanent member
Okay.
of the zoning board.
I thought we were waiting until he came back in September to figure that all out. Is that not?
I thought that was not one of the issues that we were looking at. I thought that was, but
Okay.
we can wait. In other words, we have two alternates. Al DeCray had indicated to me that he thought that was the next order of business, but we can wait.
Okay. I think Colton's coming back on the 20th or so.
Right? Okay.
Yeah, why don't we wait until then and address it?
Before we move on here, I guess it's the appropriate place to talk about the proposed code changes. You know, we said that we wanted to do that sometime in the first week or early September. And to that end, I have done the one for the water department. And the reason I have done that is because I feel obligated to the Annapolis office when we had an audit here to do that. So I thought we wanted to do a number of code changes so that we have to do it a number of times And I just want to know how we want to proceed on this here, because we said we were going to do that, have it done by the end of the year, and we are now in September.
I get the sense, though, Heinz, that ours is probably a little bit more complex. It sounds like you've done the work on yours, and yours is finite. And I wouldn't want to blend the two together and hold you up if yours needs to be done by the end of the year, because we're also talking about changing the code if we're going to consider this the chicken thing as well, and that would be a change to the planning and zoning as well. We've not gotten our group of people together yet. We're waiting for the summer vacations to end, and they have ended. We just haven't planned our meeting, our get-together.
How do I proceed here?
Should you amend the code? Give me the code section.
Well, I gave it to you, and you looked at it, and we got...
All right, well, I'll just draft it up to the form. It's a
Okay.
hearing on a local law.
Do we have to have a public hearing on this?
Yes.
So,
Okay.
there we go.
So you'll send those out to us
Send me
once
the
they're
drafts, and then you just
Okay.
have to set a date for public hearing.
Okay, sounds good.
Heinz, what is your change? Is it
It has to do with, we had some inconsistency in practices, in billing practices, and how what was in the code, and there were some other smaller technical things, like we're using different kind of pipes and things like that. I thought I sent it to everybody, but I'd be happy to send you another copy of the proposed change. I have a red lined copy here, so you know what was before and what I propose to do it now.
Okay.
That's it?
For the police department, they issued 41 tickets last month. They had responded to 106 incidents. They made 8 arrests, and they placed a speed trailer out at 2 locations, one on Platte Avenue and one on East Market Street. On Platte Avenue, the vast majority of drivers obeyed the speed limit, with only 2 drivers out of 802 that were over 40 miles an hour, and the speed limit there is 30, so there were some within 10 miles an hour over. But on East Market Street, it's exactly the opposite, with the vast majority exceeding the speed in sometimes significant fashion. They had 69 drivers that were 51 plus miles an hour on East Market Street.
Where were these things located?
They were during Fair Week, 8:20 to 8:21.
No, location where?
On East Market Street.
Yeah,
exactly where, I'm not sure.
I saw one by the mobile station there.
Oh, okay, so it's on the eastern part.
Yeah.
of
Right,
East
heading
Market
into
Street.
the village.
Yeah, because the concern, of course, is in the business area where we have
Right.
crosswalks and so on, and I see people really stopping on these
Right.
things. There's not too many people speeding there.
And they did want to mention that there have been some burglaries from parked cars, so just be sure to lock your car when it's not in the garage. That's all I have for the police department. Under special requests, we still have the open event application for Sinterklaas. Anybody want to?
I think as a board, we should consider it tonight. I think that we had our last meeting where we discussed Sinterklaas and the request by our Village of Rhinebeck Police Department for additional staff for that event. The cost was between $2,100 and $2,400 for those 6 additional officers. I think this board agrees that burden should be borne by the event organizers. And with that being said, I would approve of that event application contingent upon them funding that $2,100 or $2,400 for those additional police officers.
That would be your motion?
That would be my motion.
I will second the motion. Any discussion?
Well, I have a little problem with that in terms of them being able to fund this. We have that's a new thing. They've never done that before. I think we're going to lose them because I don't think they have the money to do that. my sense. I think we're going to lose having Santa Claus here.
Well, we're looking into different ways to fund it, either privately or getting some help from the county. We just want to, we want to approve this so that
No, I understand it, but
They
the
can
way
get
the
going.
motion, the way the motion is, it is either they fund it, or there is no Santa Claus. And I think that is kind of,
They fund it or what?
there will be, we will not fund it. It sounds like the way your motion reads is it is just, they have to, the organizer has to fund it.
Well, I think they want some sort of acknowledgement from us that the application is approved. So I guess your proposal is that we pay for it.
No, I think he's saying the way you said it was they have to pay for it. But we know we're trying to find other ways to pay for it. So
Right.
we have to make a different motion.
No, I don't think I do, because I don't know if this board is willing to take on the burden of that additional cost.
Well, the motion's been made, it's been seconded, and we're asking,
I guess we're discussing it.
yes, we are discussing it.
I think we're trying to move this forward so that they can plan the event.
Yes, but the way we move it forward is they have to pay for it.
They have to pay this additional
Well, it
cost.
has to be paid, and I think the sense of the board last time was that they're individual, that we are going to help them, but we're not taking responsibility for doing it.
Right.
That we're going to, we want this event to be here, we support the event, we like the event, and we would not want to lose it. But
we would reach out to our county executive or any other opportunities or avenues that we could to help.
What if these efforts, well-intentioned efforts, what if they fail? What if nobody comes forward and says, sorry, Rhinebeck, we're not going to...
Well, that's how the
fund it."
motion reads, that
Yeah.
ultimately the responsibility is on the event applicant to provide for the additional police coverage, whether that be through sponsorship or other contributions.
We're I think that this discussion is segmented, because I think last time we said that the village, funded $8,000 of efforts last time to make that event happen, and I thought that was a pretty good contribution.
Yeah. But now it is 2,400.
Well, no, it's
additional.
additional. So now we're talking about $11,000 or something.
We're continuing the same contributions in the past. We've committed the full police department, all the police resources that we have available. And we pay for all the setup of the road barriers, the trash removal, street cleaning, et cetera, and the posting of the signs for the no parking. That all comes to a total of about $8,500. It's determined by the police department that they need more police coverage, which would come from the Sheriff's Department.
Right. So how does your motion read again?
My motion reads that we approve their application with the understanding, or contingent upon, the funding being provided to support the 6 additional officers by the applicant in one form or another. Now, mind you, Howie and I are working with them to come up with means of...
It's really, I'm sure that's really appreciated. The question is, what if you guys are not successful?
So,
well, then the contingency is not met.
Right.
Then the approval is not granted.
Then we don't have Santa Claus, if they can't pay.
Do you know if they can or cannot?
I have a strong, I don't speak for them, but I think they're struggling.
So how would you word the motion in a way that that would be acceptable to you?
But I didn't make the motion.
Well, no, you objected to a portion of my motion, so how would you, so do you want to just not consider the motion at all? I mean, the application? Or do you want to pay the $2,400?
Given the fact that there is no alternative as far as our police department is concerned, that they're insisting on having additional people there, I would say we pay for it.
Okay, well, we
But
have,
we have
the-
a- we have a-
yeah, we have the motion, so let's take it to a vote. All those in favor as it stands?
Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
Aye. The next one in here is the consortium of Rhinebeck. That's the, can someone tell me exactly who's in the consortium? It's the Rhinebeck Historical Society, the Museum of Rhinebeck History. Is there?
What's the other?
Quitman?
Equipment House?
Quitman
Okay.
House, yeah.
Daughters of the
American
Revolution. Okay, so all these agencies or groups got together, they want to put an informational sign, which is going to go to the west of the municipal lot, in a little grass area where there's a bench. We've been through a couple different versions of it. We have now a sketch of it. We all walked the site.
We even have the benches for it.
Yes, yes.
I'd like to thank Heinz and Scott for picking up that wayward bench we had in the village on last Friday night.
To pull the
It's called a bench caper.
to pull the plan together. So I'd like to make a motion to accept the proposal as submitted.
Second.
Comment?
Discussion.
I would just, I think that we have a board that's in place, the planning board, who, this is their, they do this across the village, and so I'd like to show them the plan, that nice plan that was drawn up.
Yep.
And just have them look at it and make any comments as if they necessary. I know,
Okay.
did they kick it
'Cause,
back to
yeah,
us?
haven't we sent it to them before and they kicked it back? They wanted
Yeah, but,
us to make
yeah.
the decision?
I don't know if we had a final, I mean,
Okay.
we can have them comment. If they say fine, then we can approve
Okay.
it. I mean, we can make it pretty quick. I'd like to have their comment on this new proposal, because we just came up with that a week ago, right?
Okay, well, let's amend the motion to make our approval contingent upon
Planning board.
the planning board's approval. Of an
I
amended
second.
second? Okay, any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. On the same subject, I spent last Saturday night on Facebook looking at this organization, the Historical Society. It was fascinating.
Oh,
Some of
isn't
this-
it great, the pictures that they have?
The pictures and some of the comments of some of the people there. I learned a lot about Rhinebeck in the 1920s, in 1910.
It is fascinating.
I do have another special request that didn't make the agenda here. Request from the Rhinebeck Republican Committee to set up a table in front of the farmers market starting in the beginning of October and running through Election Day. Now, I know we've approved those type of requests in the past, so I'd like to make the motion to approve that request.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to other business, another one that's not on here, but there will be a ribbon cutting for the crosswalk project on the 17th. I know Joel mentioned that the county executive will be at the church at 11. I believe he will be at the ribbon cutting at 10, I believe it is, on the 17th.
17th?
Yes.
Do you know
September?
who provided the funding and who got
The
the funding?
funding was,
went
with great
together?
effort of Mrs. Sauer,
Okay.
and was paid for with a Dutchess County Community Block Grant, and that's why you will see the county executive there.
What time?
And that paid for the two,
10, you said 10? 10
I
a.m.?
believe it's 10, the press release went out from the Chamber of Commerce.
Okay.
So, no, I believe it's at 10. But, yeah, just to review, those two crosswalks, the one on Route 9 in front of M&T Bank and the one on West Market Street in front of the bagel shop, those were both provided by, or paid for through a Dutchess County Community Block Grant. The other two were, the first two were from a different funding source. So,
Make sure you invite her.
yes.
Because she got really picked the last time.
That would be bad for Heinz.
Yes. On to other business, we have this Nowood Properties, which is,
What the board needs to do is that Norwell Properties 2 subdivision is in the process of finishing out the Knollwood subdivision, which was approved by the planning board. The village engineer has worked with their engineer, come up with a bond amount, which has been accepted by the planning board. I've got a draft bond here. It's an amount of $407,500, which the engineers have determined to be the value of the improvements. There's a bonding and security agreement securing the work to be performed under the inspection of the village engineer. There is a irrevocable offer of cession of those roadways and improvements once completed to the satisfaction of the highway superintendent and the engineer. Those can be dedicated to the village. There is also a temporary construction easement because there is a portion of the roads that was accepted by a village board quite so many years ago that was never built upon. So that's part of the improvement that they're going to be finishing, but you have to give them an easement since it's the village property to go on and work on that road.
So this is strictly for providing the road to the properties, or?
This is for the improvements, which will become village property, which is the sewer, if there's sewer out there,
Drainage.
water lines, the curbs, the sidewalks, whatever improvements were part of the plan, and that's all been reviewed by the village engineer. They've come up with the dollar amount of those improvements. The documents that are here says that the developer will install them in accordance with the plans and specifications under the guidance of the village engineer, and in the event that they do not, you have a bond that is going to be put into the village that says if they don't do it, then you have the money to finish it yourself. It's actually a letter of credit. So you can simply on site, if they fail to do it, forward a note to the bank and say, here, send me the money, and then the village can finish that work.
And all of this is based on 2003 engineering study?
The engineering studies were upgraded with the village engineer to raise the standards on the drainage, because I believe there's a different standard now. Phase 2 requirements have come in, and they did upgrade that.
It's more than that. I mean, this thing is built in the wetlands.
Again, the village engineer was involved in that. She went through the plans. They've done whatever they need to do, and she was satisfied with that. From your standpoint, this is simply the bond to guarantee the improvements. And basically what you would have to do tonight is to authorize the mayor to sign the various documents, including the temporary construction easement.
Do we have access to the total bond amount or to the individual line values?
No, total bond amount. And you can draw on it as needed. It's not something that you have to draw on the entire, so if he fails to finish lighting improvements, and that's $20,000.
If he has only $10,000 on that line, but we still have that whole...
You can draw whatever is necessary against it. There's nothing in there that gives you individual line items for that.
You read something else before to the satisfaction of the highway superintendent and the village engineer? Is that the way it reads?
That's the way it reads.
Is that an estimate of what it costs to do the roads in that area, to do all this infrastructure?
It was prepared by the applicant's engineer and reviewed by the village engineer, who agreed with it, who presented it to the planning board, and the planning board signed off on it.
I reviewed it.
Looks like a good amount of money.
It is.
To cover costs.
It is. And that's why I asked, though, because the individual line items weren't necessarily in line with what I was thinking, but the total value is, and that's why I wanted to know whether we had access to the total bond amount or individual line items.
It's a site draft.
Yep.
So you simply say, all right, I need $40,000. You send that into the bank, and the bank lets you have a wire transfer of the $40,000.
And it's not unlikely that they wouldn't do all of the work, that we'd have to do everything and spend the $411,000. So even if it got 50% done, you still have 100% of the money to do 50% of the work.
Right, but we had problems in the past where the village had to finish roads.
That's why you've got the bonding and security agreement, and you've got the bond. Last time, we didn't have a bond. I don't know why.
Because this village board wasn't here then.
None of us were here for that one.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure because I was at the tail end of the other problems that we had.
Right. This one is fully bonded by a letter of credit, which will be sent to the village clerk's office, and it will remain there until they're ready to dedicate the roads. At which point, there's also a 20% maintenance bond that's been established by the planning board for acceptance. So when you take the roads, you get a 20% bond of whatever 20% of $80,000 for the maintenance for a 1-year period of time. So again, the only action I need from this board is you authorize the mayor to sign these documents. I prepared the documents. I sent them to their attorney. He had no changes.
I have one more. I have just another question. The work gets completed. once the work is completed, we take ownership upon completion, or is
They
there?
offer it for dates. It's an offer of dedication to the village that upon completion of improvements, the village may accept. Nothing that says you have to, but you may accept it. There will also be a deed in the village clerk's office to transfer the property.
So in New York State, typically, you have a one-year, contractor usually has a one-year warranty at that juncture. Is that what you're saying?
Upon acceptance of the road by the village, they then have a one-year maintenance guarantee to ensure that once the traffic is going on the roads, that everything, in case something happens, a catch basin sinks down into the, that's there to maintain that. They either repair it or you pull on that letter of credit.
And that's only 80,000.
Right. It's set. Your statute says 20% of the performance bond is to be used as the maintenance bond.
So, okay. So in the case that there's a catastrophic failure of something, if they refuse to do the repair, you only have 80,000.
Right, but our engineer's going to review this before.
Right. The an escrow has been posted, and the village engineer will be reviewing the construction going forward.
It's not that we're going to be accepting something that we don't know we're talking about.
Right.
But the last time that happened, we did not have a problem until 2 years after, or 3 years after, but we had major flooding in the area. So while from a point of view of quality of workmanship, there may not be an issue, but there may be an issue of
Wasn't from what I understand, I think it was a failure. The work didn't fail. They didn't complete it properly, right? And in that case, I think there's a completed operations. Isn't there some other insurance policy that's in place that you could tap into that?
Well, no, you have a letter of credit for the full work to be done.
For 1 year?
No, not for 1 year. Once you accept the roads, you will have a 1-year maintenance guarantee at the 20% level. That's after they've been built, signed off on by the highway superintendent and the village engineer. Then the board could accept the dedication, take title to the property, along with the title insurance that's required under this, and then you will have a 1-year maintenance guarantee of 20%, 80,000 some odd dollars.
Heinz just said something failed after, or they
Well, the
noticed something
drainage,
after 2 years.
this includes drainage, right?
Yeah.
This whole infrastructure?
Now, whether that was because they were designed wrong, whether they were put in wrong, I have no idea at this point.
essentially there's no way for the water to get out.
Or was it, or if they failed to make a connection or something, isn't that?
Yeah.
Again, the village engineer has reviewed it. She signed off on the plans, and the contractor has to build in accordance with the plans, which is what the village engineer is going to be there to observe.
Okay. I'm good.
Would you like to make the motion?
If I knew what it was,
It's a motion for the mayor to execute the documents necessary to proceed with the Phase 2 subdivision.
I can never recite that, but yes, I made it. Yeah. I made a movement, yeah. I make a motion to accept the documents to allow the mayor to sign the acceptance of the bond for the
bond, the temporary construction easement, and the offer of session.
As stated by Rich.
As stated by our attorney.
Is there a second? Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Asher Road, Rockefeller Lane paving project.
I'm going to have them execute these.
I think that, hey, Pat, was there some follow-up to the Callanan submission today? There was a second page that was missing for their unit pricing.
I received both.
You received both?
Yeah.
So upon the recommendation, the village engineer reviewed the backup supplied for the unit pricing, and it appears that Callanan's bid was complete. They now have provided us with the unit pricing that we'd asked for, and I'd make a motion that we accept their bid.
Was it the village engineer who reviewed this, or was it Tom Mannix?
I'm sorry, Tom Mannix.
Tom Mannix, okay.
I'll second. Gary, second. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So let's get that project going.
Yeah.
Do we have any follow-up on the front door?
I have received some new information today. I need to
Okay.
qualify it.
Tabled?
Tabled for next month. We'll be able to move forward with it.
Put the T next to that. East Market Street Center, any update on that? We were talking about when you're exiting onto East Market from Center Street, the visibility is poor to the right in front of Town Hall. So we would need to have to understand, we need to have a public hearing to move the no parking.
If you're going to amend no parking, you have to have a public hearing to amend your vehicle and traffic code.
Okay, maybe we could do that same public hearing along with the zoning one there. Maybe.
You have to tell me what you...
And we need 10 days?
The local law has to sit on the desk for 10 days, right?
Okay.
Well, I spoke to Pete Dunn about that because he wanted to make sure if there's any other places in the village he thinks that we have to amend the parking, we should do it all at once. So he's going to think about that and get back to you on that.
Well, sounds good.
Okay.
Let's shoot for getting it in by October to post the public hearing for that. And for the water changes and for this one, we'll have both at the same time and move forward. The employee handbook. Pat, you were going to tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. I had started to look into creating an employee handbook, so we had some kind of handout to give to new employees plus our current employees. At the same time, there's an email list that goes around to all the different clerks for towns and villages in Dutchess County, and the topic came up, so I was able to get some information from some of the other municipalities as to how that they have handled it. They gave me the name of the company, and it seems that a lot of the same name kept coming up and coming up and coming up, and it was Public Sector HR Consultants LLC, and they have done work for other municipalities, including the town of Rhinebeck, creating an employee handbook, and they've also worked with like UPSEU and the various unions. I felt it was something, because of dealing with different unions, we have the police and our regular union, that it was something I didn't want to take on myself, because I did not want to have any conflicts or any problems that would come back to bite me. So I did contact them to see what their cost was, what their recommendation was, and I have put a copy of it in everyone's handbook or in everybody's folder. It looks like the cost is $4,900. This is not something I'm asking for right away, but it's something to keep in mind for possibly next budget year, because most municipalities do have employee handbooks that are given out to employees, so employees know everything about what is expected of them and what they get in return.
That the $4,900, is this just for printing costs, or is this for compiling
it?
And all the other manual works associated with
it? Okay, I think we'll give us some time to all look at it. And
I did some research on it, and that's what I got, and now I pass it on to you.
Okay, thank you.
Well, while we're talking about it, maybe Rich could look at it too, because we do have union rules that might be different than what's in this employee handbook, and
well, that would be part of their task, would be to incorporate the union contract language to make sure that it marries up with this.
Okay.
Under correspondence.
We took care of that.
Yeah, we'll address that. And how you're working on this sidewalk
Yeah, I'm
here?
talking to this lady about, she wants to fix her sidewalk.
Okay.
Okay.
Got it. Water and sewer adjustments?
Have them. I thought we said we weren't going to...
Yeah, you can just make a motion to approve as submitted.
All right. I move that we approve the August wastewater and sewer, water and wastewater adjustments as submitted.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That was easy.
I love it. we have two sets of minutes. You guys had a chance to review? Are you ready to go with those?
I guess I'd like to be included in among the people who were present. I don't see myself.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Sorry, Gary.
Which one was that? Both of them?
That's September 2nd.
September 2nd.
Sorry.
Okay.
And the other one, too.
Okay, you got that revision?
Yes.
Pat? Okay. Anything else? I'll make the motion to approve the minutes. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody else got any other business you would like to address?
I don't know if, I assume everyone else got the notice. There's a shared services forum.
Yes.
Going on October 15th, 4-hour event. But it seemed like if consolidation, and this one is geared especially to fire departments, I gather. But if
Among other things, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway.
No, it would definitely be a good one.
So
It's in October, 4:30
October
to
15th. I just thought
down in Poughkeepsie.
we should at least make
Wednesday.
sure,
It's a Wednesday.
at least one of us.
Yeah.
Wednesday.
Okay. I just want to offer two thank yous to my left over here. The first being Pat for doing such a nice job of putting together these binders for us and making sure we're all well prepared with a full complement of documents.
Very nice.
It seems to be working pretty smoothly for us. So thanks, Pat. And the second, I want to thank Heinz. It kind of went by a couple months, but back in July when Howie and I were both away for 2 weeks, we had some emergency issues come up with the Asher Dam project, and Heinz stepped in and gave some on-site oversight for us. So thank you, Heinz.
Thank you.
Thank you, Heinz.
And we do not have, we will not be having an executive session this evening, unless anyone else has anything. Okay. So I'll make a motion to adjourn.
No. I'd like to send some information to a couple of auditors, different from our current auditor. And what I'd like to send to potentially interview them for the next year's final audit. And I'm sorry?
Accounting firms? Is that?
I'm sorry?
Accounting firms?
Yeah, accounting firms.
Oh, okay.
And I have talked to two of them. I've talked to Michelle O'Reilly, who works for O'Reilly, and well, she's one of the partners there. And then I've talked to Stephen Kirschhorn in Poughkeepsie. And I'd like to send them the past audit and the management letters along with them, and a redacted copy of the letter of engagement that we have with our current auditor, so they know, what it is that what we want. I also think we should then, once we get a sense of how much they want to charge us and what they want to do for us, that we should interview them if we decide to go with another accounting firm.
Okay.
Okay?
So now I'd like to make the motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Okay.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All done.